F-35s had killed all your
We're
heroes.
live. Thank you very much for joining us once again in the House Government Operations and Military Affairs. We are on cue with council. Look at that. Dated right. We are joined by Senator Collmore and Legislative Council to talk about S-23 and hear about the changes that are coming over from the upper chamber. Senator, care to join us? It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. So let me start by, well, for the record, Senator Collmore from the Rutland District. We were together yesterday, and again, I have deep appreciation for your work on the repeals report project. It really did help our committee out quite a bit to hear that you had actually done some further work on this and then made certain recommendations. So with that said, S-23, I don't think I need to go over, I can if you like, the bill itself. It was originally passed in the Senate. I think it was actually before crossover. And then at the very, very last moment, in fact, it was during the veto session last year, it came back with changes that you had proposed. Unfortunately, we were at the 2-yard line, to use a sports analogy, and we ran out of time and you couldn't message it back until we reconvened this year. So that's why there's been this delay. And in many cases, it feels like I did this 5 years ago and not last year because it's been hanging around for a while.
The elasticity of time is.
Yeah. So we're talking about synthetic media or deep fakes in some people's minds. That's how they kind of look at it. We did take a look at the changes that the House had sent back. And there are 2 changes that the Senate Government Operations Committee has proposed. It'll be on the action calendar today on our side. So I'll stand up and report that we did not concur with the changes. Well, we concurred with 95% of your changes, but we do have a further proposal of amendment to consider. So here are the 2. The first instance of amendment would change the definitions of, quote, deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media, end quote, and the words synthetic media itself to include more advertisements in the disclosure requirements. So the House Government Operations Committee had in many ways tightened the definition to include only political candidate. The Senate version opens that to use the word individuals. And the new definition of, again, deceptive, fraudulent, synthetic media would require a deepfake advertisement depicting any individual, not just a political candidate, to include a disclosure. It also clarifies that an ad that attempts to influence an election by providing materially false information would be included in the disclosure requirement. So a couple of the examples that I think, and Representative Waters Evans was with us when we talked about this. If someone were to somehow get, and again, I'll use names, but it could be anybody, Bernie Sanders, Senator Sanders, to endorse VL, except it was a deceptively generated ad, that is beyond just the political candidate. That's an individual acting in that situation. And it would be included in this bill now. So it's any individual, not just a political candidate whose depiction is on the screen or on the radio, however it is. It's any individual that attempts to manipulate this would fall under the purview of this bill. The other, yes.
Question from
Sorry,
Rep. Hager.
I'm really unclear because you used 2 politicians in your example. Could you use non-politicians in an example for me?
Sure.
Thank you.
So if there's an issue on a ballot, whether a town should appropriate money or, so that has nothing to do with a specific political candidate, that would also fall into this. So if someone created by AI an ad that said the Dorset budget bill should never be passed, it's a bad bill, please listen to me, that could be also. So it's an issue and a political candidate. And I'll yield to certainly counsel if I'm misspeaking.
Hello. Rick Sagel with the Office of Legislative Counsel. The example I use is Arnold Schwarzenegger. I know he used to be a candidate. He's no longer, right? So if he went on the air, people still listen to him or not, but if he went on the air and he made an AI ad using Arnold Schwarzenegger and he endorsed GL or Matt Byron, that would be included in the Senate proposal. The House version had to be a candidate. Not the candidate that's necessarily on the ballot, that it was open to interpretation. So now the word individual is not open to interpretation. It could be any individual.
Understood. Brad Waters Evans.
So it can be any individual who's in that, who's used in that synthetic media. But it still has to pertain to an election.
Correct.
Okay.
Including a public question, as Senator said.
Right.
Any ballot item.
Right.
Understood.
And again, not to take sides, I understand that the more restrictive definition likens the chances that it would pass judicial muster, in the opinion of a lot of people. The wider you make the definition, the more vague you make it, the less likely it probably is in terms of whether this gets challenged and who decides to object to it. And I think that kind of an okay way to say it, but.
When I turned off my ears just so that.
Oh. Okay.
Sorry,
I think he's teed up a question for me once we get you in
Okay,
the hot
okay,
seat.
okay.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna send your committee assistant a copy of the amendment.
Thank you, sir.
So again, it changes the definition. The new definition of synthetic media replaces political candidate with individual to match the updated definition of deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media. It also removes the exemption or exception of a political candidate consenting to be depicted in a manipulated advertisement. So that's our first change. The second change is, I think, a little bit clearer, is in the accessibility of the actual disclosure. Our amendment would propose that the disclosure be made inclusive to the greatest extent possible to people with disabilities.
Okay.
And that has to do with font sizes and pitch and volume if it's an audio.
Okay.
And those are the two changes. And we'll see at probably about 1:15 when we convene on the Senate floor, whether this is voted up or down on the Senate floor. And if it is, it will be, I guess, sent back.
And the vote out of your committee was?
5-0-0.
Okay. Understood. Going into the Wayback Machine at the end of the last, or when you actually, I guess, pre-crossover, when you sent it, was this a voice vote for your chamber or did you roll call it?
I honestly don't remember. My recollection, I don't think we roll call.
I don't think you did either. Yeah.
For
I'm
the
just,
original,
yeah. No roll call. Thank you, number. Okay, cool. It's trying to square the peg on sentiments. So, any questions for Senator Callamore before we shift over to esteemed council? Nope.
Okay,
Always a pleasure, sir.
always. I love this committee. I'll stick around.
All right, thank you.
For a few minutes.
Yeah, please. Help yourself. Snacks too, if you like. Yes. Good morning, council.
hey, good morning. Again, for the record, Rick Sagel with the Office of Legislative Counsel. It's good to be back.
And just
Illustrious committee.
you sent an updated copy to our committee assistant
Yes.
that posted. Thank you. Let us know what it is so we can hit the old refresh button.
Would you like me to share my screen or just?
Go for
Okay. I'll have to join the Zoom, so it may take the same amount of time.
it. Okay. The race is on. Sure. Let's get a Kelchi going on this one. It's topical. Subject matter.
Zoom.
Joking, Lisa's face does.
Insert eye roll here.
Okay, here we are.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. course. So you're looking at, as the senator said, this is the further proposal amendment as reported by Senate Government Operations. It's on second reading today.
Could you bump your font up a little? It's working. Yeah. Now I feel like I'm at the eye doctor.
Okay, so it's up for second reading today. Assuming it passed the second reading, third reading, we'd be getting it towards the end of the week. Senator did a great job explaining the two proposals of amendment. The definition change is considerable. It looks innocent, but it's pretty considerable. I walked the committee through what you all did, how you narrowed. You may not remember. It was several years ago, it feels like, where you narrowed the definition, much to my urging, if I recall, to make the law more constitutional. Because what you're doing is you're regulating speech. Even if you're not banning it, but even if you're requiring a person to put a disclosure on an ad, that is restricting speech, right? It's like when you make your own advertisement for your own campaign, you have to say this is paid for by Kate Nugent, right? That is also restricting speech, but it is a appropriate government restriction. So to keep this appropriate, you want to make it as narrow as possible. So what the House committee did was said, if it's a political candidate, doesn't matter who it is, Bernie Sanders, Matt Byron, whoever it is, that's going to be included within the scope of this. And that's fairly narrow. The Senate committee decided to open it up to any individual. As I said, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Vladimir Putin, anybody you can think of that is not a current candidate for office would be included in the Senate proposal of amendment. Does it make it unconstitutional? I'm not a judge. I don't know what a judge is going to say. What I do have is at least one court decision which took California's similar restriction and issued an injunction because it deemed it a violation of the First Amendment. It's one court in California. Would an appeals court overrule it? Possibly. I can't say for sure, but the reason I walked the committee through that court decision was because that court decision set some principles about the First Amendment. And the things I've talked about in this committee too is when you have a restriction on the First Amendment, you must be really careful because the First Amendment is obviously a important part about this framework of government we have. And you got to have a really, really good reason to restrict speech. And in this case, so the Senate proposal of amendment, again, expands it to any individual. Your version was candidate. Subdivision A is the same as the House version. I just structured this differently. Injures the reputation of a political candidate. So if it's Arnold Schwarzenegger doing something that makes Representative Byron look bad, right? Would that be injuring the reputation? It depends, like how bad is it, right? Or attempts to unduly influence the outcome of an election, which was also in your version of the bill. The Senate version adds including a public question. It also clarifies by providing materially false information to voters.
How is materially false, information defined?
So it's not defined. However, when lawyers think about that term, if something has been material to a contract or something, it's a substantial influence. Okay, so if you lie to somebody about the day of the election, the election's on Wednesday, November 8th, and it's actually Tuesday, November 7th. That is materially false information. If you lie to them about the color of the sky on the day of the election, probably not materially false information. It's false, but is it actually material?
Is that going to be relevant to the outcome of what we're trying to?
Are you going to change are you influenced to an extent that your vote is now changing because of the ad? So we can define that, but I don't know if you need to.
Water's evidence.
So the Senate added this materially false information phrase, right?
The House, yes, the House version just said attempts to unduly influence the outcome.
Okay, so this is what I'm struggling with. So we already included exceptions for parody and satire. And that still applies in this context. But can you talk a little bit about what it means to say providing materially false information to voters to, like, I know that would have to be something significant, but like you just said, to change the vote. But I guess I'm struggling with this because often, I'm not saying I think that it's okay, but I'm saying often, I mean, all campaign materials in effect are trying to influence someone's vote, right? So, and often people push the truth or say something that, maybe pushing the line of being honest or not, but those things are allowed in a campaign because it's part of the process, right? So can you talk about where that line is, if it exists, or do you know what I'm saying?
I do. I do and I can't.
You can't, okay,
I
cool.
can't draw you a line.
Cool, thanks.
It's, I can give you examples, right? Bright line
Yeah.
examples, but I can't tell you, here's where the line is because it gets really gray.
Yeah,
And then it's up to a judge or jury to determine this is based on all the facts of this specific example. We deem this to be materially false information that is subject to disclosure. So I wish I could give you
okay,
a clear rule, but there isn't.
all right. But it's fair to say that adding this language really expands.
So actually, I think the changing political candidate to individual in one,
Yeah,
it expanded. This, I think, actually narrows it in some ways. That before the House version said attempts to unduly influence the outcome of an election, period. That's what the House version said. The Senate version adds on, including a public question, which I think was implied in the House version. But then adding by providing materially false information to voters was added by the Senate, which I think actually narrows it a little bit. In that if the ad is silly and just says the skies, I keep using
Yeah.
the sky is red or brown, that's not going to unduly influence the outcome of an election. But if you say, let me give you another example, that if you vote for my opponent, you'll lose thousands of dollars because taxes will go up, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Is that materially false? Probably not. Are you going to change your vote? Maybe, if you rely on that information, but is it materially false? That's maybe more of an opinion. That's not really true or false. It's hard to prove that true or false, if that makes sense.
it does.
So, yeah, the Senate opened it up, and I think not a constitutional way, but then also narrowed it in maybe a better way, as far as the Constitution speaks.
Okay. So, all right. I'm done. I was gonna
Okay.
follow up and I'm good for
Wanted
now.
to make
Thank
sure
you.
that was just
Stammering, just a little glitch.
keep an eye on the
Okay.
peripheral for the hand. Okay, any questions for this chunk from any of the other members? Okay.
All right, synthetic media, the change here was to match the definition of deceptive and fraudulent. Synthetic media, changing the recording of political candidate's appearance to an individual's appearance. So nothing substantive here, except at this point, again, it can be any individual that is depicted, not just a political candidate. The House version had to be a candidate for office.
Okay.
Happy to further explain.
Yeah, do that. Does get a little bit more granular on that one.
So synthetic media is used in the definition of obviously the deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media. And the House version, it was the exact same verbiage, except on line 18, recording of a political candidate's appearance, speech, or conduct. Because now the Senate version opened it up to any individual who's depicted, we also had to update what synthetic media is by including individuals, not just political candidates. The other change is the House version at the end of the sentence had a comma, so including artificial intelligence, comma, without the consent of the candidate. That was added because if a candidate agrees to be depicted in an ad, then it was kind of a loophole that was closed off, that would not be against the statute, that if you want someone to make an AI ad of you, it would be legal. You wouldn't have to do a disclosure because you agreed to be depicted by AI. So that loophole was removed. So you cannot consent away to be depicted in an AI ad.
Rep. Nugent.
I apologize in advance if this is a lot of like unformed thoughts, but I'm just thinking about how like the burden of proof on, whether or not speech has an impact is already pretty high, I imagine. So is there a weakness in this bill in that it's calling out elections specifically as the thing that's going to be influenced? Because I'm just trying to imagine how would a judge decide that one ad or something changed the course of the election when I'm not really sure that any two people ever agree on that anyway.
So we're talking about subdivision B, right? That it attempts to unduly influence outcome.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be a fact-based question. And, after looking at the ad or hearing the ad, would a reasonable person have been influenced unduly by this false ad? Is the question. And, it's going to depend. I wish I can give you a clear rule, but there's not one. And my colleague Tim Devlin may chime in if he wants to about election speech. I know the government does have more leeway to regulate speech when it comes to elections with disclosures and everything else, but doesn't give the government just carte blanche to restrict everything when it comes to election speech. Does that answer your question? It probably doesn't, but that's
Yes.
maybe the best answer I can give you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So, I guess in summary, it seems that it's, even though it's expanding it, it's kind of tightening it.
Sure. In some ways it expands. I said those
Right.
words, right? So again, think about what you all passed, which was it had to be very limited. It was a depiction of a candidate, right? Which is limited. There's only so many of you, right, that hold office. Now it's anybody in the world that can be depicted in AI that can influence a election. So that's the reason why it's more broad, and it's not necessarily unconstitutional, but you're getting closer to the line. And again, my role, I'm not going to stop anybody from doing anything, but my role is to kind of say, hey, the line, you're approaching it. And I don't know if a court's going to be okay with this. But in the other way, Mr. Chair, is that you've narrowed the Senate has narrowed the influencing the outcome of an election by clarifying it must be materially false information.
So how does that process play out if somebody challenges materially false?
So somebody makes an ad, right, that uses someone, an AI somebody, and that ad causes someone. The example is the Joe Biden robocall, right? That is the common example. It was not Joe Biden; it was a robo AI Joe Biden that was calling people in New Hampshire, telling them not to vote in the election,
Correct.
because it was, I can't remember why, but
Different day.
yeah, gave them a different day.
Yeah, that was the date
Right.
toggle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear one, right? That is, you are attempting to unduly influence the outcome of an election. That's pretty cut and dry. And it's materially false. You are literally saying it's the wrong day, right? And that's maybe the extreme on one end, as to what this law would prevent or protect against, that you would need a disclosure. It's not even banning that. It just said you need to put a disclosure. This is it's created by AI, whatever I forget the exact verbiage, but there's verbiage in here. So that is a clear one, but as far as examples in between that, are gonna be, would a reasonable person have been influenced by this? Is this such a false statement that you would maybe either not vote, change your vote, or you rely on it to do something that's not right or that's not accurate?
Diane?
Yes.
Okay.
So would the voter herself have to be the one who is like, wait a second, I was unduly influenced by these materially false information? Or could it be like an organization saying this video was intentionally misleading and now we're going to
So there,
sue? Because it's a civil, not a criminal
right,
penalty. Yeah.
it's civil but it's a penalty. It's not a cause of action.
Yeah.
You as a candidate has a right of action in this, but a voter does not. So the state's attorney, the AG, would represent the state, saying that this statement, voters likely relied on this ad that you made that was
Okay.
deceptive, that, XYZ, and we're gonna fine you $1,000, or, there's the penalty section. That didn't change. So we have set fines and we have enforcement. And yes, let me make sure a candidate whose appearance, speech, conduct is misrepresented may seek injunctive or other relief. So you as the candidate, if you're depicted by AI, you can request to the court, request the ad be taken down. The person that made the ad take it down, not run it.
Okay.
Those are your two actions: is the state saying don't do this, penalty, or the candidate harmed going to court saying that please take it down. You're ruining my reputation.
If we were to, so if we concurred with the Senate's changes and we expanded it from a candidate to any individual, would we have to change, would it make sense or would it be a common practice to change the penalty to apply to any individual or the candidate who's harmed? Or like, because then it seems like if it was only the candidate in the penalty section, then one would cancel, like it would cancel each other out or not apply. Do you see?
I do see.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how that works.
You wouldn't have to. Because what this bill is getting at is just defamation in different words, right?
Right.
Somebody's being defamed, which is already a cause of action in every state. If you're defamed, you can sue the person that defamed you. So in this case, the political candidate's been defamed. Although it's not even using the word defamed, it's misrepresented, which is not defamation. So I would not add individual. I think that weakens the constitutionality because Arnold Schwarzenegger would come in and say, you made an ad about me that made me look really skinny. I'm not skinny. I'm super buff, right? So I'm going to sue you. That's not a cause. That is not a First Amendment. I think that would be protected by the person.
Okay, that's why I was trying to make sure that we weren't gonna be like opening that up for like any
Ads
person.
of
Okay,
Schwarzenegger looking skinny, right?
I'm gonna go do that.
That's a First Amendment right that we all have.
Okay,
Photoshopping Arnold Schwarzenegger.
okay.
With the California law in place, we might have talked about this last year. Has there been an election cycle since that's been up and running?
So there's an injunction. That law is not in effect.
Oh, that's right. That's
But
right.
other states, there's like 26 states where it is in effect.
Okay.
So again, I use California as an example, but other states it's not been challenged.
Mhm.
Minnesota, Texas have bans on their ads, which is one way to do it. But those have not been challenged, and I would imagine they would fail if they get challenged. So to answer your question, yes, other states have gone through cycles with their laws in place.
Okay. Any other questions for council right now? I mean, I want to have a conversation with the bigger body mass of the committee present. I do realize that we have two folks digitally on the screen. Anybody on screen have questions? I can't see your hands. Just feel free to speak up or, yeah, there we go. Rep Stone, Rep Stone, it's all you.
No, I don't have any questions. All as well.
Thank you. Just wanted to check in with you guys in the digital table. Okay, well, we'll discuss this again as a committee in a little while. I just wanted the time to like run through this right now to get the understanding so we could marinate on it and make an informed decision. Do you have anything further to add?
That's just the other instance of amendment. I know we focused on the definition.
I thought that was two.
The two definitions, the other two are not as constitutionally problematic. Adding,
Thank you, sir.
adding in, you may remember that this committee made the disclosure if it's a video or image be easily readable by the average viewer. If it's audio, shall be clearly spoken and can be heard by the average listener. The Senate Government Operations Committee added and inclusive to the greatest extent possible of individuals with disabilities. That was a tough one because understanding the desire to have people with disabilities be able to hear or see. However, it's not always possible if you can't see. How do you see an image that has a disclosure? So the decision was to just use greatest extent possible, which could be some type of link on the image or video or some other way to allow people with disabilities to hear or see the disclosure.
Okay. So, and yes, Rep Hooper, I do see your hand, but one moment. So with something like the text, so that would be like increasing font sizes, giving it a more prominent placement within the ad itself.
To the greatest extent possible. That's kind of a squishy term.
Yeah, that seems very subjective.
It is.
Representative Hooper of Burlington.
To that last point, yeah, that's one of the things we're seeing, I think, with the gambling bill is that you have to have the eyes of a 16-year-old to read the disclosure. But is there anything in this history or proposal that would prevent a remedy being that it's sort of like once the video is out there, once the impression has been made, you can find somebody as much as you want, but they've already accomplished their goal. Can you basically say you will go back and confess during the same sort of way that you offended? Put up an ad that basically says, oops, we goofed intentionally or not, reparation sort of thing.
So my understanding of the question is if you are subject to some type of court proceeding penalty and you're asked to remove the video or image or audio ad, can you also be asked to place an updated or a new image, video, audio ad saying that you violated the law?
Yeah, basically take responsibility for your actions and try to wipe it away. I mean, nobody is going to say, oh, they got fined $1,000 for something, but I already saw it. So the impression is there.
So not in this bill. The Attorney General's office or state's attorney can institute any appropriate action. So they can ask the court to have the person, like if it's a really egregious case, like this video was seen by 100,000 people, maybe that's an example where they would have to create a new ad saying this was AI generated, but it would be up to a court to grant that action. I don't know if you want to put that in the statute. You could. Actually line item, but.
Well, I mean, I was just looking for sort of an equivalent penalty to the damage that you caused. But yeah, I understand court decision. That's it.
Any other questions for this part?
And the other change, I went over both of them, is the audio and.
Yeah, the audio.
Yep, same language to the greatest extent possible.
How do you enhance visual?
how do you enhance visual?
Yeah, like what would that,
You provide, again, some kind of link, some kind of accessibility option. You know, many websites have ways for you to hear an image, like you click on it, it'll tell you what it is.
all right. Questions? No. All right, yeah, everybody marinate on this one a little bit. We'll chit chat about it more soon. They're just obviously, as Senator Callamore stated, it's on the floor today, so they voted today. We would see it over here Friday-ish. So I just wanted to get this out in front of us early, knowing it was coming. So we'll talk about it again once we have the bill in hand. Council, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We will reconvene at 11 for our security briefing. Nick, feel free to take us off.